This is a video in response to a comments exchange with a user by the name of NowYouSeeTV and I concerning a video by Mr. Evolution called Predestination. Does God Know Everything? NowYouSeeTV made the following comment. Before I get to the question I posed to this statement, I'd like to state an obvious thing that occurred to me after reading this. This line, "You know they will get into the cookie jar ASAP anyways when your back is turned." No, you didn't know the kid would get into the cookie jar. You're just assuming, guessing. You may believe the kid will get into the cookie jar when your back is turned, but that's all it is, a belief. By your analogy, God knows you're going to sin, regardless of him, his religion, Jesus, or his word, the Bible. You are condemned to hell no matter what you do. There is no point in a belief in a God or practicing its ways because it has condemned you to hell simply because it believes you are going to sin anyway, just as you condemned the character of that child out of your own ignorance. This is the equivalent of not hiring an ex-con because you believe he will steal the money out of your register if you leave him alone. Like the kid in the cookies, you do not know the ex-con will steal from the register. You condemn him simply because you believe he will. There is nothing, by your analogy, which you can do to escape hell. If you want to stick with this analogy, then you have simply stated that your God is not omniscient and is not a God, or at the very least, your God is not the God of the Bible, which clearly claims to know everything. If it doesn't know if the child will get the cookies or if the ex-con will rob you, then it's as blind as you are. But that obvious admission of God's non-existence by NowYouSeeTV was not what interested me most, and was a point I could always return to if the need arose. My question to him was concerning his statement, "Did you knowing they were getting into the cookie jar beforehand influence the decision?" was, if knowing didn't, then what happened to God's plan in all this? Unless you're saying God has no plan. God's infamous plan. One of the things that really bugs me about religion. Perhaps I could swallow the nicer parts of scripture if it weren't for that pesky plan, which states God planned out the days of your life, every second of it. If you deny that, then you are obviously a liar, blasphemer, and are going to hell. If you can find a single line in the Bible where God states that it is not the author of every little thing that transpires in the universe, from exploding stars to you having to pull out your penis and take a piss, quote it to me. If you can't find more than one verse in the Bible where God does state he is the author of all things, from the rape of every child to the Darfur genocide, then you never read the Bible. Thus you have no choice but to do everything your gods ordained for you. It is written in 10 Commandments stone. Thou shalt not deviate from anything I've planned for your robotic existence. Here was his response to my question about the plan. This time he insinuates God is unaware of the things we are going to do, or at the very least has a plan that works in conjunction with stuff he knows we are going to do, but has elected to ignore because it is beyond his control. How can God's plan not consist of the choices we make or take them into account if he knows we are going to make them? If his plan has you doing something on a particular day, destroying the validity of free will in itself, and you have something planned on that day, then God must make allowances for what you have planned to fit in his scheduled tasks. Two competing plans. So God would have to know everything you're going to do to shoehorn his agenda to ensure the entire plan is successful. And if God knows your life verbatim, you are not but a robot, living out the dictates of some thing. For according to blaspheming, hellfire-headed NowYouSeeTV, these dictates are not God's. You are unwilling to state that there is an entity apart from God in every way, writing the life stories of every living man, woman, and child. Your only alternative is that although God doesn't dictate your life, more blasphemy, he has more of a vicarious role, because every human wrote their life story that God is viewing in his omniscience. That you had foreknowledge of all that would exist for you to interact with before you were born, wrote your script, gave it to God for approval, and are now living out that script, whom you would marry, how many children you would have, etc. God gave you his plan for you ahead of time for you to sync your desired events for your life with his plan for your life. So now you get what you want. Now you see TV. God knows what you will do apart from his plan, but he is not the author of any of your life. But of course there's a slight problem that God approved your life story, isn't there? But of course in your one-dimensional thinking, I stole that from Brett, you'll state God gave the person his plan for them to sync, but he didn't look at the life story script. Angels handled all the fact-checking. Of course that would eliminate God's all-knowing thing, wouldn't it? His comment about placing God in a box was of particular interest to me. Apparently atheists need to think outside the box when thinking about God. This is evidently what Christians do. What does thinking outside the box mean? Here was my reply to this. The box Now You See TV is leaving to get the nonsense he's spouting about God is the Bible, the only place he can get his stuff from. If he's not getting it from there, he's getting it from his ass. And if he's getting it from his ass, he's full of shit. But there is one thing coming out of Now You See TV's mouth that is consistent with the Bible. In many places in the Bible, it clearly states that God does not have a clue what the hell is going on in his own creation. He has to ask people on earth about gossip he's heard, send angels to find things out, and go down to earth to investigate. And one time on earth, while looking for someones to talk to, had to yell out their names to find them. Aside from this, not a single thing Now You See TV said in these two comments is consistent with anything in the Bible. Nothing. They are, however, consistent with the fact that there are over 30,000 denominations of Christianity in the world, all of them the true word. Bottom line is simple. Whether God writes everything you will do as God states in the Bible, or some other entity wholly separate from God writes a life story God must abide by, as Now You See TV is unwilling to admit, or man writes his own script as Now You See TV is most likely to state, it doesn't matter. All that matters is your actions are all known to God, which means everything is written, which means you cannot deviate from them. If you cannot deviate from them, you have no free will. If you can deviate from them, then God was wrong about what you were going to do. Thus, God is no God. In closing, 1. There is a plan and no free will. 2. There is free will and no plan. 3. God is omniscient and there is no free will. 4. There is free will and God is not omniscient. 5. God has a plan, meaning God is omniscient and there is no free will. 6. God has no plan, meaning God doesn't give a fuck about you.